Hi, this is Javenta with Vazani Photography, and today I wanted to do a quick video to show you how I used Adobe Lightroom Classic to edit my soft waterfall picture of Battle Creek Falls to go from this to this. So in order to get a soft water picture, especially one like this, one that just has this really magical effect, you can't edit that in Adobe Lightroom. You need to start with good equipment. And so to take this picture, I had an ISO of 100. I had an f-stop of f14. I've noticed that if you go f16, f22, then the pictures lose a lot of image quality and I'm not happy with them. So f14 was about as high as I wanted to go with the f-stop. And then I was able to get a 10-second exposure. And the only way I was able to do this was by using a filter. The filter that I like to use is a Singe Ray variable neutral density filter and polarizer. So back to the editing tutorial. When I first got home, I have to be truthful, I was a little disappointed at what I saw. The quality's good when you zoom in, but it was just darker and it just was missing a lot of the magic that I was hoping to get. And so there are things that you can do to brighten your pictures up. I did some initial editing and synchronized, but then I wanted to work with the photo. And so the first thing I did was use the punch preset. I really enjoy this preset in Adobe Lightroom for my landscape photography. And so I used the punch preset, and what that basically does is it increases the vibrance and the clarity in a picture. And so I think it's a really nice preset. The next thing that I did was I used the brush tool. This is one of my favorite tools in Adobe Lightroom. So if you look here, this is where I brushed. And what I initially did is I wanted to focus on the clarity. And I just wanted to give the rocks around the waterfall a little bit more clarity. And so if you look at the red area, this is where I brushed. And so I added about 48 of clarity. And then I played a little bit around with the clarity just to see what I was happy with. So it went up to 82, down to 60. And then I played a little bit with the saturation to kind of bring out the colors that were already there. I ended up ending with a saturation of plus 18 and a clarity of plus 60. After using the brush tool, I then wanted it to be a little bit brighter, so I changed the exposure to plus 0.1, and that's done over here in this slider. The next thing I did is I wanted to help with the luminance and the grain. So if you zoom in, it's not horrible. The luminance tool is located on the right-hand side, and it's right here. It's the noise reduction. But I just added a plus 25. It's not very noticeable, but I can notice a difference, and that was just to clean it up a little bit. The next thing that you can do when you're playing with water pictures especially is add saturation to just a few of the colors in the picture. And that's located over here on the right hand side. You click on the color you want. In this case I was working with the blue. And then what you do is you just add a little saturation. Honestly, in this particular photograph, there just wasn't a lot of blue in this water to bring out, so it didn't make a big difference. But I did play around with the blue, the aqua, and the green. The next thing I did is I wanted to really get the water to pop, and so I focused on the highlights and the white clipping. So the first thing I did is I increased the highlights, and that's located right here. Or it's also located up here. You can click on it and then slide it back and forth. And that really helped bring it out just a little bit, to bring out the water. The next thing I did is I wanted to increase the white. Now if you see this up here, this little triangle turned yellow when I did that. And so just a little bit of the waterfall had too much white clipping. And so I had to play around with it until I was happy with what I did. I then used the crop tool, which is located right here, and I was able to crop it a little bit tighter. As you can see, I just took a tiny bit out, and that helped with some of the overexposure up on the rocks. I then played a little bit more with the white clipping and the highlights. I got to a point where I was really happy with how the waterfall looked, but as you can see, there were some overexposed areas that showed up in the water. The way that you can fix that is by using the brush tool again. And so what I did is I added a brush here. And so I brushed down here and I brushed up here, and I played around with the slider to the right on the highlights and the whites until I was happy, until it was fixed. After this, I still wanted the waterfall to pop a little bit more. And so what I did is I added another brush stroke. This one right here, and I just did it on the edges around the water. This time I used the dehaze tool, and the dehaze tool helps take off some of the lack of detail caused by the mist from the water. So once I brushed the dehaze tool around the waterfall, I then wanted to work with the white balance a little bit. The white balance is located up at the top right here, and so I ended up actually doing a custom white balance until I was happy with the colors that I got by changing the temperature and then changing the tint. After that, I wanted a little more detail, and so I updated the contrast to +9. That really helped the detail to show up in the rocks around the waterfall. The next thing I did, and this is something that took a long time, as you can see I had a lot of add spot removals. So what I did is I had to take out some noise that could not be solved by the luminance tool. It's really hard to see, but if you look right above where my mouse is pointing, I'll kind of do a circle around it. There's a little dot. It's kind of a green dot, and sometimes it shows up as red. And so what I ended up having to do was I had to do these spot removals. That's done right here with this tool that I'm pointing to on the upper right hand side. And so if you look at this, what I like to use is the heel brush for things like clouds and waterfalls and landscapes rather than the clone tool. And so what I did is I made a tiny circle, I covered the dot, and then I used the heel brush. So if you go back before, you can kind of see how it had that noise, and then after I did the heel brush, all of those were removed. After I did that, I thought maybe it had a little too much contrast, and so I brought the contrast down to a +6. And this was my final image. I hope this video has been helpful and that it's shown you that you can take a picture like this, and if the bones are good, you can create a picture like this. For more videos and more photographs, please visit my website, www.vazaniphotography.com. Thanks so much, and have a great day.